Welcome to the Dealmaker Catalyst podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Seward. And today's guest is Jennifer Steward, founder of Phone Phoenix Agency, a lead generation company that helps real estate investors, wholesalers, and agents consistently generate opportunities through outbound prospecting. Over the past decade, Jennifer has personally spent thousands of hours cold calling off-market property owners, refining the systems and conversations that actually convert into deals. Today, she leads a team of more than 200 trained virtual assistants who specialize in cold calling, lead management, and appointment setting for businesses across the country. Jennifer is also a licensed realtor with eXp Realty, giving her a unique perspective on both the investment and retail sides of real estate. Phone Phoenix Agency has earned more than 150 five-star reviews by helping clients build predictable lead pipelines through consistent execution and exceptional service. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most important skills in real estate, creating opportunities before they ever hit the market. Jennifer, welcome to Dealmaker Catalyst.
Hi, Jason. It's so great to be here. Thank you for this.
Yeah, I'm excited. And for those that anybody I've had on this podcast that previously was on my other podcast, I like to set it up with, I'm going to drop the link of that one in the notes of this one so folks can go back and hear, like, that episode was all about who Jennifer is, her life story, all of that. So, and it's a pretty fascinating one that really, for me, set the tone on everything positive you have going on now. Like hearing your backstory and your childhood and everything you went through to develop all this independence and this toughness that you have now that we all see. I encourage folks to go back and listen to that. Today, we're not going to get into as much of that. It's going to be very tactical with what you do in real estate, which is essentially you've built a powerhouse of a company that excels in generating leads, sourcing leads. So we're going to talk all things that. So welcome to the show. I know we're all excited to hear from you.
Thank you.
And yeah, so you're coming to us from the great state of Texas. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes.
Yep. And I like to kind of kick things off with this podcast with what is your connection to Dealmaker and Jim Ingersoll?
Oh, wow. That's a great one. So it takes me back to a client named Lloyd who I met on Upwork. And he said, I want you to do acquisitions for me. I really wanted to move from being a humble cold caller and lead manager to being an acquisitions manager because that's where the money was. I wanted to go from $40K a year, which is what I was making as a lead manager with my W-2 job, which I had briefly for about 2 years in my whole adult life. It was my only W-2 job. And he said, I want you to go to Rehab Valuator and see what you can learn for free. I went to Rehab Valuator and I saw that there was an Inner Circle class. And it was $100 a month to get both Rehab Valuator and Inner Circle. By the way, they have not gone up on price in 7 years. I'm still in that same class because I like to dance with the one who brung me, as we say here in the South, right? So Jim Ingersoll brought me to the table, so to speak, in many ways. And so he will always be my dance partner. And I got in the class and then he said, hey, follow me on Facebook. He was very sociable. And he saw that I would post about the funny conversations that I would have on Facebook. I used to be the caller myself. So every single day or a couple of times a day, I would post about the hilarious things that people would say to me over the phone as a cold caller and the objections that I would have and the rebuttals that I would have. And after a couple of years, I guess 2 years of Inner Circle, Jim said, I don't know anyone else who is on the phone as much as you. Will you come and speak at Dealmaker? Which was a big deal. But what's funny, Jason, is I thought I was doing him a favor.
Yeah.
I thought, well, Jim's a nice guy and he's taught me so much about let me do him a favor and fly all the way to Virginia. And I didn't take it seriously. I mean, of course, I took it seriously in that I made a great presentation to make him look good, but I didn't understand how my life was about to completely change. So I was there just goofing around, hanging out with friends. But by the time I got off stage, I couldn't even get to the bathroom for I don't even know how long. right? And some lady comes up to me and she says, "Hey, how are you?" And I said, "I don't know who you are, what you do, but I will do anything for you if you'll just bring me a bottle of water," because I had just been talking for so long with so many people who had come up to me, and I have not been employed or employable since. I have run my own business, and the day that I quit my job, which was April of 2021, about 5 months before Jim had me speak, Jim was the only person who congratulated me. Everybody else said, "What are you doing? This is irresponsible." Now, only making 40K a year, it wasn't like it was hard. It wasn't hard to replace that income, right? But still, it was a job, and I was a single mom, and my kids were relying on me. And, 40K is better than zero. And Jim told me, "This is the best day of your life." He was the only person who told me that. And so that is how, and then I was asked to speak at Dealmaker, the big one, a couple of more times. And every time I went, my income and net worth increased by 6 figures every time. I mean, acutely to where I could track it back to Dealmaker.
Yeah.
So if anyone is on the fence, and by the way, Jim wasn't the type of host who would take any of the profits either. Other people asked me to speak, which I'm grateful for, and we have explicit contracts on whatever I make. We split half. Jim's case, it was, no, just share what you do. I wasn't pitching. Other people who have me speak after him, they want me to pitch specifically. Jim never had me pitch. He just said, get up there and share, educate on what you do all day, every day. And that's honestly the biggest seller. Nobody likes to be pitched to, right? And so you'll make more money if you just educate, truly.
Yeah, and that, I mean, he is such, and I do this every single episode, so I'm sure he's probably getting tired of hearing everybody talk so good about him. But he is such a genuine, like everything you said is perfectly accurate, and I've experienced with him this with him in several ways, but specifically with this podcast, like Jim, he calls himself an introvert, right? So he's been wanting to do a podcast for a long time. He just didn't want to host it, right? He didn't want to have to, he likes being around people and stuff, but he didn't want to have, be the host or facilitator of it. So he reached out to me, and like I am with everybody, I've known Jim for a while, but not very close. And but so I'm like, what's in it for him? Why is he reaching out to me to host this podcast under this mega brand of Dealmaker? And it truly was nothing, but he just wanted to provide some value to people. He wanted to get people in his network a platform to teach what they do, to inspire folks, motivate, educate, whatever you want to call it. And we've never once talked about this podcast being an income generator or something that can generate income for either. It's just always adding value. And he saw me as someone that could help with that, but there was no tie to profits or anything like that.
He didn't
Exactly
send you a joint venture contract?
nothing. We have nothing. It's
The
just,
profit split?
yeah, let me record it and we'll throw it out there and hopefully it helps some people. That's literally the
That sounds
conversation.
like him.
Yeah. And so yeah, I'm glad you shared all that because again, we do all this under his baby, his brand of Dealmaker, and I want to take every chance I can to highlight Jim. So well, that sounds like you mentioned you were employed prior to that. What was your career? What was your job at that time?
I was a cold caller, and then I was promoted to being a lead manager, which at that time people did have Americans do. Later on, everybody switched to Filipinos, Egyptians, and obviously now everybody includes a little bit of AI, whether it's Whisper Flow or something else. But at that time, people were hiring Americans to do the job. And then someone realized that Filipinos could do almost just as good of a job for half the price. But so I was kind of antiquated, anachronistic, if you will, in that I was an American who was doing that job for a lady out of Denver. Great lady who, was the first one to tell me I was really great at this. Everyone else didn't have and I say this, I'd say it to their face, and I have, that they didn't have the business maturity, I think, to take what she saw in talent and run with it. So other people would get the cold calling leads and say, these aren't converting, so you must suck. She was like, no, 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 no. You're amazing on the phone. Your leads are awesome. These other people don't know how to close. Can I please have you exclusive to me and I will take you on W-2? Well, I had just gotten divorced, which is not great, right? But we ended up back together. And through that divorce process, I needed to refinance my house. And having that W-2 job allowed me to get the house refinanced into my name, which is great now that we're back together because I don't have to compromise because the house is in my name. So whenever
Now,
I want to add something, it's
right,
not, oh, honey, what do you think? It's, this
we're doing this.
this is what we're doing, right? So that suits my temperament just fine. And so that job did allow me to get my house refinanced in my name and made the taxes super easy for a couple of years. And then whenever you make 40K, you get, all these subsidies for
Yeah.
daycare, healthcare, you name it. And I would take that money and just put it right back into my business, right?
Yep.
So I didn't just
Yep.
sit on that system forever. I used it and used it what it was designed for.
From what I remember in our previous conversation, a couple years ago when you were on the other podcast, this blew my mind. This about you. So yes, you worked that W-2 career, and it wasn't until what you said April of 2020, 2021.
2021.
Okay, gotcha. That you you kind of finally launched into entrepreneurship. You were an entrepreneur back to your teenage years. I would remember you telling me you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad when you were
15.
yeah, like nobody does that. I didn't read it until I was 35.
Well,
It's
I didn't really put it into action though, like I should have, just because I was scared. I didn't have the capital, and I didn't have, this is important, the peer group of Dealmaker. Really, it was the peer group that made the difference between the knowledge and putting the knowledge in action. We all need a team, right? And team is going to give us the confidence to put what we've learned into action. So it took me 20 years, Jason, between reading that book. I mean, think about the year 2000 to 2021 to really have a business that's very successful, right? That's how long it took. But there was a lot of failure in between, right? I mean, I was an insurance broker. I failed at that because I didn't have the business maturity nor the capital to generate the leads, and I didn't have the cold calling skills that I have now. I was very bad at it at first. So I want to encourage if anyone's trying to cold call themselves, you're going to be bad at first. But, like
just
I
like
said,
everything. It's
yes.
everything in life. You're bad at it. Nobody's good and exceptional at anything they do for the first time. It doesn't happen.
Isn't that important to remember? Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's dive into it because you've taken the platform of Dealmaker and that community. It kind of catapulted things forward, and it's been a rocket ship since then. You've had you've personally it sounds like you've personally spent thousands of hours on the phone over the last decade, cold calling motivated sellers, or maybe some of them not so motivated. But what have you learned? What have you learned about people that most investors that are trying to do this completely misunderstand?
It's not what they say, it's what they don't say. Have you ever pitched something to a family or a family member in your house or a relative and they're giving you resistance, resistance, resistance? And then all of a sudden you say something and you see their eyes shift to where, okay, maybe that does sound good, right? That's what you're listening for over the phone. Now, you can't see their eyes shift, but just like someone who's blindfolded and they lose one sense, you gain acuity in a different sense. So, whenever you're used to just being on the phone, you learn to hear things that you at first you can't hear. So just the same way a blind person is able to hear amazingly, it's because and my background is in psychology, their brain completely rewires and remaps to where now their world is like the hearing part of their brain becomes much more connected and maybe even takes over more volume, right? Is what we learned in my cognitive neuroscience class. So that same way, just like playing the piano is going to expand the connections, what are called on your homunculus right here, where you do your finger movements. Um, you're going to have more connections in your brain that come from just listening, right? So you're listening for what they don't say. It usually comes in the form of a silence, right? So if I'm negotiating over the phone and they go silent whenever I give a price, that's usually a good sign. It means they're thinking. If they immediately start cussing at you and rejecting you, that's okay. That just means you probably need a couple more phone calls, right? Or you need to refer them to a realtor. But if you hear immediate silence, that means they're thinking. So you're actually listening for the silence. And so instead of, I have so many clients. I've had over 500 in the last 10 years. Well, 95% of them are gone, Jason, because it's real work. So I don't even mind telling people only 5% are successful, right? And so it's a real gamble unless you want to do this one thing, and that is listen for the silence and put in the time and put in the reps. So it's real work. It's not putting money into these exchange traded covered call funds like I do that pay me, anywhere from 13 to 30% per year. We're not talking about, a passive income source here. We're talking about real work. And I feel like most people expect it to be more like a passive income source. And that is not what generating leads through cold calling is. It is a very labor intensive opportunity but you can really make a lot more with your money than you can with a passive income source. Right. And so we can get into the brass tacks. So let's say you have one full-time caller. And in today's world, you might get one decent lead per 8-hour shift. Now, before COVID, you get about 5 leads per hour, and 1 in 55 of them would close. So you can do the math, right? And so that math was a little bit more compelling. However, after COVID, fewer and fewer people answer the phone, even with really great, like we use BatchDialer is what we use, because BatchDialer has what's called a reputation management function, where once a phone number is marked as spam likely by the carrier, then BatchDialer automatically changes it, which then increases your contact rate, meaning you actually get a hold of the person that you're wanting to get a hold of. And the higher your contact rate, the higher your lead rate, and the higher your lead rate, the higher your appointment rate, and the higher your appointment rate, the higher your conversion rate. So the dialer is extremely important. So whenever clients are like, "Oh, I don't want to pay $200 for a dialer," I'm like, "Well, then, this is not the opportunity for you, right? You need to get that second tier of BatchDialer so that you can get the reputation management function." And so even though it might only be one lead per 8-hour shift now in 2026 versus 5 per hour in 2020, your cost per lead is still $100, basically, is usually what it is. Where your cost per lead with PPC or PPL, which, by the way, all of those work. So it's funny, is like all the PPC, like a lot of the PPC guys I know and other people like, "Oh, cold calling doesn't work." I'm like, what's interesting, guys? I never say that PPC doesn't work. And I think the reason why they say cold calling doesn't work is because they need to make cold calling look bad. But it all works, guys. It just comes down to, your capital outlay. Are you willing to pay $300 to $1,000 per PPC lead? If you have that kind of cash, then do it, because it's going to save you a lot of time, right? And like Amanda New says, it's good to have one outbound and one inbound. And so I absolutely agree with that. Cold calling has its place in that it's an outbound strategy that doesn't have the legal snafus of the texting world right now. Which, again, texting is great too. Just make sure you're doing it legally. I don't have my clients do texting anymore because if something were to come down the pipes, I don't want to get that call, "Hey, Jen, you got us in trouble." No, 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 no. That's, if they want to do texting, they're going to do it somewhere else. We had a ton of clients on texting until August of 2023. I was profiting like $40,000 a month just doing running texting for folks, right? I had so many texting clients. And then all of a sudden, everybody was shut down at the same time. Not operators like myself, but the text carriers were all shut down, and all the rules had to be redone. So texting can be done easily now with, done for you stuff where they have your website done for you. They'll do the texting for you. And I think all of that is great. Cold calling is a piece of that. As long as people have their phones on them, right? It's something where I agree with, shout out to my colleague, Matt Larson. As long as people have their phones on them, cold calling will work. You just have to have the right script and the right software to get through the carrier's defenses as well as the receiver's defenses. In which case, people say, well, what do you say for the Apple, right? Where people are like, oh, please state your name. Then you just say your name and state your business, and you'd be surprised how many people actually do let you through, if for no other reason to hear how much you're willing to offer on their house. And so the other tip that will make you successful with cold calling right now, besides realizing it's not a passive income, it is labor intensive. You are going to have to put in the work, call them. We do the follow-up for you, so that part's good. I mean, we'll follow up, but at some point you have to get on the phone and make an offer. And we can do that as well if you want us to, but typically that is more successful if the investor does it, right?
Yep. So I want to go back to, well, I've jotted down 10 questions right here as you were talking, but the first thing is like mistakes that you hear a lot of people, and you talked about, I want to dig into the psychology of silence a little bit, because I think just sales in general. So my background is in sales. I started when I was 22 years old in the insurance industry, and I was there for 20 years.
That's great.
And early on, I had this, now that I can reflect back on it, it was an insecurity, but I had this very uncomfortable relationship with silence when I was trying to sell something. A lot of my selling was at the kitchen table, right? Or they were in my office. So it was face to face, but I was young, and I feel like I had to fill every second of silence just by letting them know I know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to overcome the fact that I'm young and all that. Well, I had one of my mentors and my boss at the time, my manager, said to me, because he would sit in on like joint appointments just to observe every now and then. And he gave me and I love the fact that he was so blunt with me. He said, "You've got to learn to shut up. Like you are getting them perfectly to the point where they get a chance to think about what you just said, and they're thinking, and they're about to give you good feedback to work with, and you keep breaking it because you can't stand the silence." And
So true.
I was probably a year or two into it at that point, but that profoundly impacted everything else the rest of my sales career. I got so comfortable in the silence. I'd sit there for 5 minutes and just stare at it and just wait for them. And it helped me manage my team of sales reps as I advanced in that career. But I think that is such a huge point that a lot of people miss, because as salespeople, we're naturally talkative. We want to talk. We want to lead every conversation. The best way to lead it is to let them think and talk, right?
That's exactly right. And I notice I talk more to my detriment whenever I'm tired and stressed, or I have a bigger problem that's facing me in the afternoon after that. It requires heavy, heavy willpower to shut up.
Yeah.
And if our willpower tank is spent, our ability to shut up is going to go way, way down. So forgive yourself. I try actually not to have any sales calls on Fridays for that reason. I know that my willpower is shot by Friday because all I have done is been the boss, been the mentor, been the expert all week, and I get major, major decision fatigue to the point, Daryl, my partner, he'll say, "Hey, do you want ice cream or do you want chips?" And I'm like, "Please don't ask me any questions," right? Especially because I'm not supposed to eat ice cream and chips. Like, you know better than to ask me that. And so decision fatigue is real. And so if you notice, if you're sick, if you are going through a lot of stress, you have to really talk to yourself before your sales call, because obviously you don't want to reschedule. That'd be ridiculous. You might never get them back on the line. Talk to yourself and pray. I know this is a Dealmaker channel, so I know I can talk about praying. Pray and just, say, "Hey, I know I'm tired right now, and I know my willpower is shot. Maybe I've been sick. I've been dealing with, I just found out my kid made a bad grade. I just found out, I lost a deal because the buyer decided to back out, and yet you're going into a sales call. That's where I notice where I talk a lot, Jason, is whenever I kind of don't care. I don't even care if I make the sale because I have bigger problems right now. But if I don't have a good pipeline and if I'm not getting more deals and more clients, well, then that is going to be a problem here in a couple of weeks or a couple of months down the road whenever I haven't been doing my job.
Yeah.
And I was one of the worst at talking too much. At least you were a fast learner. I had to be told that many, many times with many mentors over years. So I was a slow learner. And I think it's because deep down I was a very nervous person who was uncomfortable in my own skin. And so there was a lot of resistance to finally slowing down and getting quiet. And I just want to be silly and say I feel like hormones do make a difference. As I'm getting older, the hormones are slowing down, and so everything's kind of slowing down. And then also losing so many sales, right? I mean, whenever you see people go with competitors over and over and over again, that starts to hurt, where you're like, okay, what did I do? Well,
Yeah.
I didn't shut up. That's what I didn't do. I did everything else right, just like your mentor said to you. I presented the information. I made it about them as much as I could. I didn't talk about myself. But when I did talk, I talked too much. So that is so, so important. And by the way, I can't believe you could sit there in silence for 5 minutes. I think 60 seconds would probably be.
I've never sat in silence for 5 minutes, but I was being a little hyperbolic there. But you said I'm a quick learner. I was in that particular aspect. If you ask my wife, I still never know when to shut up. It just, but that's a different story. So, but you mentioned something else, and this is so I'm trying to. So what I notice, in in our real estate business, the way we have structured everything, we have a lending company now, but
I've seen it.
leads,
It's very
yeah,
impressive.
it's a lot of it's not too much cold calling involved with that, very little actually, but what I'm around, like our clients are doing this. They're sourcing leads, right? So they're bringing us leads. And one thing I notice is, and I know you notice it, um, a lot of folks have a very, very difficult time. And you mentioned it, like one lead per 8-hour workday.
Mm-hmm.
That means 99% of your day, you just got told no. You got rejected.
Yeah.
You got cussed at. It's all mostly negative interactions for an entire day to get that one lead. So yes, the carrot is there. You get the one lead that hopefully converts to a sale or a couple sales, whatever. But you have to go through a lot of adversity and no's and disappointment to get there. And I think a lot of people get burnt out on that very quickly.
That's
So how do you manage that, and how do you train folks to manage that?
Great question. So before COVID, it was about 1 in 55 cold calling leads closed. Now it's about 1 in 25, 1 in 20 to. So even though the quantity has gone way down per shift, the quality has increased.
Yeah.
So if someone is actually willing to talk to a stranger over the phone about selling their house, that has now become a proxy for, okay, this person is much more motivated. Where before, people weren't used to having their phone number, their cell phones be public domain, right? So if you remember, which we all remember, there was a time where the only people who called your cell phone were family and friends, right? So
Yeah.
that's why people are now used to their cell phone being called like the home phones were before. And so there wasn't really, I would say that that was a transitional time in our culture where people didn't even really want to sell. They just wanted people to tell them what the value of their home was, right? Where now they're a little bit more motivated. So to get to your question, how do you train people to. Okay, so I saw this yesterday, and I can't remember who posted it, that the people who were the most successful had certain types of traits, right? They were obsessive. And also, it's necessity that drives so many of us. I was getting paid $20 an hour to develop that skill, and $20 an hour at that time was almost a living wage. So there was economic necessity. You don't care if people cuss you out until you know if you're getting paid a living wage to do it. It's nothing compared to your kids not eating, right?
Right.
Now, Americans don't usually have that kind of hunger. You could even pay them $100 an hour, and they probably would end up in tears at the end of the day. They just don't have thick enough skin for it. Now, I would love for someone to come through and prove me wrong. I do
Yeah.
know of some realtors who do a great job, do circle prospecting and things like that, and have no fear and no shame. But most people just don't have the skin for it. And I feel like something that my Filipino team and I have in common is we know real poverty. I think you have to know real poverty, Jason, in order to do this well. So, and we talked about, in your original, but it's true. I mean, it is a critical piece, I think, to being good at this and having the focus for it. So I grew up in a house where there was no food and a lot of drugs. That's true poverty, and no one coming to rescue me. I moved in with my dad at age 14, which it wasn't a way rescuing, but at that point, the damage to an extent had already been done. So I was already very hungry. I had known true poverty, and that stays with you. I have interviewed people in their 70s, and they still tear up over the things their mother said to them when they were 6. So that never goes away, right? But I'm grateful for it because it's almost gave me like a superpower where rejection doesn't bother me at all. When you encountered profound and daily violence and hunger at a young age, what the heck is it to you to be told to go pound sand or go F yourself over the phone? It's nothing. And same thing for my folks in the Philippines, too. I mean, there's like families of 6 living in, 900 square feet with no social nets. There's no food stamps. There's no Medi-Cal. There's no Medicaid. Your family either pays for your hospital bill or you get kicked out. I mean, like, it's real poverty in so many of these countries. They don't have the same freedoms. They're run by dictatorships. The ladies in Egypt, they're in a Muslim country. And although I make a lot of money with my Muslim partners, it's not exactly free countries, right? I mean, it's just, we are so blessed to have this. So I feel like people can't handle it because they're too soft.
Well, yeah, to sum it up in one word is resilience. And when you have like organic, natural resilience built in you, whether it's through childhood or through bad relationships or bad trauma, whatever it is, which, everybody to some degree experiences some of that.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
I agree with you that at an early age, and I've got my own early childhood stories right up through adulthood that was real adversity. There's nothing that's gonna like make me not keep on because I've already kept on through stuff way harder than this. So
Way harder.
that's like the psychological component of it is easy to when you're told no a few times, if you've never experienced like real sustained adversity, to just say, screw this, I'm gonna go move on to the next thing. If you have, this is just another Tuesday, right? Like I got told to F off. Like, okay, I'll move on to the next day because I know I think it gives you what you're saying is you have this perspective, and so do your employee, your teammates. They have this perspective of this is just a numbers game. The more I do of X, the more of Y that comes out of it. So I don't care all the in between. I'm going to get Y because I'm going to do enough of X. And I think it's pretty, it's all goes back to resilience.
And this will be an interesting piece too, I think, Jason, to your point there. The only Americans that have stuck with me a long time in my agency are male veterans.
Okay.
Because to them, it's nothing, right? So and a friend of mine who's in the military for 20 years, who's in my agency, he said, Jen, the reason why they make boot camp so hard is because it's all about point of reference. You're like, I've already done this stuff that's way harder, right? And so the harder experiences you can put yourself through, the greater the expanse of what you're going to be capable of.
Right.
Because you've already, and speaking of Jim Ingersoll, what's amazing about him is he's not one to brag about the hard stuff that he's done. But I mean, you talk about just a Tuesday with him. Imagine having all the tenants that he's had, doing all the deals, and plus lending, as you know, when you have to foreclose on someone that, you've had a mastermind weekend with, that's tough, right? And so what you guys deal with as lenders and investors, you have to be tough. Cold calling to me is easier than putting my money on the line in someone else's deal. Like that's
Yeah.
that's way more scary to me.
Hey, it's all scary in a way, but at the end of the day, I lay down. I'm like, did I die today? Did anybody I love die today? Then no, it was a good day. Let's get up and do it again tomorrow. And I mean, yeah, it's So I want to talk about, so like most of our listeners are, I mean, it's a wide variety, but you got some folks just starting, you got some folks that are rolling pretty good, but they're starting to scale or needing to scale. I'd say most people to some degree fall in that like middle of scaling, right? They're trying to get to that next level. So from your perspective, when should an investor like hire their first virtual assistant to help with these types of tasks, cold calling, things like that?
I would say that your average to even above average operator is going to get seriously burnt out doing this themselves. I don't even recommend that they do it themselves, not because it's profitable to me, but because they're just going to burn out. I mean, even I don't want to cold call 8 hours a day just to get one lead. Like, that's not a good use of my time at all. And so I would say just to even have the momentum to keep you motivated, to keep your operation going, is to just start out with it. Now, I know other people who I respect say, you should cold call yourself first so you know how to train them. I think that's great hypothetically, but I don't think most people are going to actually do it.
I
And
agree.
so I would say just hire them at the outset so that you succeed, right? If you don't have the capital to hire your entire team at the beginning, I feel like a lot of times people are just setting their money on fire, right? You need to be able to budget to have your entire team for 4 months. Right. So let's say people who I know who really do well, they're dropping anywhere from 10, 15 to 50K a month on marketing. Now I know that's a lot, but the average cost per deal right now, from what I notice, um, because I ask my clients and I ask even PPC, and I ask colleagues who have nothing to do with my agency whatsoever, but that I know personally. And I'm seeing in middle America right now, maybe 4K per deal, but on the coast, including in Virginia, is about 6 to 7K per deal. And anywhere where you have any kind of population or a high guru per capita, it's going to be 6 to 7K per deal. And it's going to take you 4 months, usually 3 to 4 months, to get that first deal. So are you ready to spend 28K before you see a dime? And nobody tells you that because they would rather get your money and see you fail than tell you up front, hey, it's going to cost you probably 28K before you even see your first deal. Right?
Yeah. So what part, and I think you alluded to this earlier about like it's okay to delegate a lot of things. So delegate the cold calling and stuff like that, but at some point it has to come back in that investor, your client's hands, to close the deal at some point, right? And so at what point of the process do you recommend that happening, to where they stop delegating and they take over? So like you're handing it off back to them.
Okay. So if you want to close your own deals, which is going to increase your success rate, then that's at the point where they're willing to have a substantive dialogue about selling their property. Either they have specificity in their motive, meaning they have a specific reason that they want to sell, not just, oh, yeah, let me hear your price. No, 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 no. I need to sell because my grandma needs me to come take care of her. And heck, I wanted to move out there anyways. So I'm going to be selling. Or, tired landlord, I've got cancer. I'm pulling from some real stories. And of course, most of them are sad, but we're in the business of helping. I've got cancer and my wife is ill and we can't maintain the property. I had someone in January pass away while we were in escrow. So then we had to deal with his heirs, right? And so you're looking for specificity. And so it's once they are setting that appointment and there's a specific reason why they want to sell. Doesn't matter what their price is. I don't care if they say they want double Zillow. That probably just means their title's intact. If someone tells you they want less than Zillow before your acquisitions appointment, most likely they have serious title issues. Or they don't even own the property at all. So run. If someone's like, "Oh, I'll take half a Zillow yesterday," they probably don't even own the property. They're trying to just pretend that they do, which has happened, right? Where someone said that they had the deed to their mom's house, but they didn't, right? And thankfully title caught that. So just people are like, "Oh, they want too much money." Well, you're gosh darn right they want too much money. Everybody wants too much money. It doesn't matter that they want too much money. Same way, one of my clients was a psychiatrist, Jason, and he's like, "Oh, these people all want too much." I said, "Well, when the schizophrenic guy goes into your office and asks for a prescription, do you give him whatever he wants or do you give him what he needs? You don't just let the bipolar person come in and go, 'Oh, I want meth,' like, or whatever the legal version of that is, the Adderall, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't give them that. You give them what they need. Well, it's the same thing with your sellers too. You give them the price that you can offer. And so even if they tell you they want double zero, I give them the offer that I can give. And the way that I do that, Jason, is I say, "Hey, I know you're looking for, XYZ. And I wish I could do that for you, but here's what I can do." And I can't do that. Totally gotcha. Because you've spent the time here with me today to run this appointment, I want to make sure and honor everyone's time. So I want to give you a gift today. I'm going to go ahead and give you this offer in writing. I'm going to send it to you. Even though you don't want it, you can burn it. You can wipe your butt on it. I don't care what you do with it. I'm sending you this offer. And then that way, is if you sign it, that money will be in your account in 30 days. And I know you're going to take it. You're going to shop it. You're maybe going to find someone $5,000 more. But at least I'm being honest with you that at this price, I can guarantee you that the money's going to be in your account in 30 days. Other people are going to try to offer you more, and then they're going to say you're going to be under contract, and then they're going to come back and try to renegotiate with you. That's not how I do things. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the kind of person who's going to lock you up, put a memorandum on your title, and then take your deal and shop it around. This is what I can for sure do, pay cash for, and so that way they have it in hand, right? And that's just for straight cash.
I love that. Yeah. I love that though. I love the way I can feel that putting myself in a potential seller's shoes. Like, okay, I don't like this offer, but at least she's getting ready to give me something to look at. It's going to hit my inbox and it gives them, like, they know you're serious. The way you framed all of that's great. So, what I would imagine that I have a million questions, so I'm gonna ask the ones that are kind of stick out in my head. But I would imagine a lot of your clients, you can only get the ball in their hands to some point, but there's got to be some kind of CRM or some type of management to get it from the handoff to close, right? And follow up. And so do you see a lot of people struggle with that, just managing leads once they have them?
Most people come to this doing something else. Very few people are coming in, it's the only thing they're doing, and they have to swing for the fences.
Okay.
The people who come in and it's the only thing they're doing, they have to swing for the fences or they don't eat, those people actually tend to do okay. And also, there's some of my toughest clients because, they contact me multiple times a day, but at least I know they're engaged. So I welcome those types of clients. However, most of them have a full-time job. They get to it when they get to it. And then they find that it's not as easy as they hoped. And then they end up just quitting. So it depends on the avatar of who's doing it. The people who, okay, they're borrowing money or they have a partner and that partner's counting on them to run it. This is what I see the most often. And so these people they are on it. They're doing their best, right? But most people don't have the business maturity or someone to tell them, "Hey, are you willing to spend a minimum of $28K?" And I'm not saying with me. I don't care who you go with, whether it's PPC, TV, radio, side of a bus. bandit signs, texting, whatever, if that's the average cost per deal and it takes 3 to 4 months to get there, can you spend $28K and not have any income coming in? So you're spending money and you're not making money for 4 months. That is a difficult prospect for most people. But if you can do that, like even Daniel Clayman, I've only heard him say this publicly once. He was down to like his last dollar when he was trying to wholesale, and it took him a whole year to get his first deal. Do you think anyone thinks back? Does anyone think of Daniel Clayman as the guy who was flat broke and it took him a year to do his first deal? But look at what he did. So I mean, it's not a great prospect to go into that kind of risk when you already have a family, when you already have kids, right? It's very, very difficult to do that. So unless you're willing to go 4 months without income while spending at least $28K, I would just buy from a wholesaler. I mean, I know that my competitors would say, Jen, please don't say that. You're telling the secrets, right? We need to convince people that they just need to buy leads and we can start day one. But after doing this 10 years, I'm really tired of the churn and burn of clients coming and going. So I tell people, because it took me a long time too to figure out, okay, what does it really take? What's the formula? All I knew at first was that there was a huge demand for cold calling. I was a good cold caller, so I provided it, but I didn't know what it really took to see my clients be successful. It took hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people and observing which ones kept us on and did deals and which ones went by the wayside and I never heard from again. And as I look them up, most of them are completely out of the business. But I think if someone knew, right, and I tell all my current clients, because now I know what it really takes, and that's not an easy sales pitch, right? It's like, okay, you're willing to make no money for 4 months while everyone else around you is making money. That's tough.
Yeah.
But if you can stick with it, then your life will be changed forever, right?
Yeah, and you've got, I mean, at this point, you've got the proven track record of what you are selling them is, you could say, this is proof that it does work. You just have to be resilient, be understanding that it might take time. We got to dial it in, but that's kind of where I want to segue now, as we wrap things up is, yes. So let's say I want to take this on myself. I've been buying a few deals from wholesalers, but I want to ramp up my own marketing, all that kind of stuff. I could go out and source VAs through various Fiverr, Upwork, all that stuff, and I could hire them, try to train them my way, and get something going. Or I could probably spend a little bit more money, maybe a good bit more money, hiring an agency like yours that has a leader that's already trained all these VAs. You have hundreds of them,
Yeah.
to handle this for me. So let's say I go with the latter and I come to you. What can I expect, or what can someone expect as far as the services you offer, and what that's going to look like over the next 6 months, 12 months?
Oh, great. So we bring everything except for the CRM and the dialer, right?
Okay.
So get your own BatchDialer, which is good anyways, because then you can audit your own calls. You can listen to them. You can see how many calls were made. Of course, we send end of day reports every single day to our clients, as well as all the recorded calls from the leads. So it's not 1,000% necessary. I have gotten dialers for people before, but it's kind of a real logistical administrative nightmare for me because BatchDialer doesn't want me having a bunch of dialers from a compliance standpoint. And also these days, there are as many CRMs as there are clients.
Right.
So bring your CRM that you love, bring your BatchDialer, and we do the rest, right? We have the labor, we do the cold calling, we do the lead management. We bring the data and skip tracing up to 100 records per hour skip traced and pulled. So it's $13.50 an hour, but it's basically 3 roles in one. So it's not just one cold caller. I mean, you can get just regular cold caller for like $6 an hour, but this is cold caller plus lead manager, which usually a lead manager is $12 an hour. So you're combining a cold caller plus a lead manager because they do both, plus your data and skip tracing. So it saves you all of your software. Because I know people go to Deal Machine and there's so many sources to get free data and skip tracing now, which is great from these companies that kind of use them as loss leaders, which does suck for me because I used to make like 20 to 30K a month selling data and skip tracing. But now I kept the same team. We just include it in the cold calling it's like 100 records per hour is included. So it is a good deal because you're getting that combo of the cold caller lead manager who's nurturing the leads, following up the leads, and setting the appointments for you. That way you don't have to do the follow-up work yourself until you've made an offer. So the time where we recommend that the investor themselves do the follow-up instead of us is after they've put paper in front of them. Once you've put paper in front of them, your conversion rate's going to go up if you're the one who is doing the cold calling, or excuse me, who's doing the follow-up, right? So we have packages. Some start at $540 a month. That's just 10 hours a week. And that includes, like I said, the data, the skip tracing, and all the labor. And so if you do 1350 times, 40 hours a month, I think it's 540, right? And you might get 4 to 5 leads out of that per month. And you think about it, if 1 in 25 closes, how long is it going to take you to get a deal at $540 a month? It's going to take 5 months, right? So that is enough to discourage folks and just have them feel like, oh, well, I'm just, wasting my money. So I recommend that you do full-time if you can, which is about $2,200 a month, in which case you're going to be seeing momentum a lot faster. So momentum is really important in business. And look, I'll take people at, 10 hours a week all day long. I will take anyone at any price point. I think there's one lady who says she can only afford $100 a week. Well, guess what? I created a subscription link just for her at $100 a week. So I'll take people at any price point they can do, but we're going to have a very honest conversation about what the results are going to look like at that price point, because I don't want anyone to come back and say, oh, well, I didn't make any money with Jen. Like, well, if we had that conversation up front and it's recorded, we need to be very realistic about what those thresholds are, right? So a lot of clients are at full-time. They're the ones who obviously are seeing more deals. Some people do 60 hours a week. Well, they'll have one person at full-time, one person half-time, and then some people do 2 full-time people. A lot of people come to me and say they want to hire 5 people at once, and then when it comes time to pull the trigger, they're like, well, let's just try 1. I'm like, yeah. So anytime someone tells me they're going to hire 5, I know that's not going to happen. They're just going to end up saying 1.
Yeah.
And so what that looks like is by month 6, you should be doing deals. If you're not, then we need to have acquisitions training, right? I mean, that's just what it comes down to. Try to go for at least 1 offer a day. I try to make an offer because I have my own wholesaling that I'm doing in Wisconsin, right? I try to make an offer for every single person that I speak with, right? Because by the time I speak with them, then it's time for me to make an offer, right? And so try to have an offer in their inbox or their text, whichever one you want to do, because most services will do both. Some people aren't comfortable giving you their email. So I've sent offers via text and had them get signed, especially in land. So if you're not making offers, you're not going to be doing deals. And people are like, they hem and haw, they take too much time, they want to get the perfect comp. And look, let me tell you a dirty secret. Half of Zillow is just fine. You don't have to have all these crazy comping tools.
Right.
Although I'm not saying you want to be asinine and not look into the details, but if you're the OCD type or you're the analysis paralysis type, and you know that about yourself, and you know that you're just going to go into that analysis space and not make offers, see what happens if you just offer half of Zillow. Now, for me, I'll do a plug here for Jim and Daniel Clayman. I have used Rehab Valuator for my comps for the last 7 years, and I have found that it's more accurate than ChatGPT, and I told Daniel Clayman that too.
Yeah.
So whatever comping tools you use, and then just send out an offer. And most people don't, because a lot of people are like, oh, Jen, I'm not doing deals. Okay, well, how many offers have you sent? None.
Right.
So wait a minute, you're telling me that you're not making money and you haven't sent you've sent exactly 0 offers? Like, so send offers. You have to send offers to every single lead after you've had a conversation with them, and you will do deals.
That's solid advice, whether they're using a service like yours or their own VAs, or just sourcing them through wholesalers, MLS, whatever. I mean, that it is a numbers game. It's like anything else in business. When my partner and I were working our W-2 careers, our biggest KPI was we make 20 offers a week. Now, 19 of those were FU, were responsive, but one of them got a conversation going. And then the next week, another conversation, and we were able to buy property that way. But it was because we were just throwing offers out there, everything, and we were not hesitant. It was just, there's what it is. We can lock up a contract and buy ourselves a week to underwrite it a little more thoroughly, but we're gonna make an offer and get those out there. And that, I think you're exactly right. And most people, I keep getting outbid. Well, how many things have you bid on? I've put in 3 offers over the last month. You haven't done anything. You're not gonna win contracts that way. So I think I love and I hope that the listeners out there will at least, at worst, take the time to connect with you. What's the best way to reach out and have a deeper conversation related to their business if they're interested?
Thanks for asking. So it's just my email is going to be Jen, Jen at REI is in real estate investing. So Jen at REI datasource.net. So Jen at reidatasource.net. You can send me an email there, and then we can pick up a conversation from there. And just like you, Jason, I'm not a high pressure person. I have investments that are paying my my most basic bills, so that takes a lot of pressure off me. I don't have to close like I did when I was younger to survive. So I'm not the same creature that I was before. I was a pretty hard hustler there for a long time, but now I see myself more in a consultative role where I just give people the straight facts. I don't appeal to emotions like I'm trained to in sales. I appeal to the facts. Where do you want to go? We ask the conversation. How many deals a month do you want to do? How many are you doing currently? What kind of marketing are you currently doing? What does your current budget allow you to do? Okay, well, based on that budget, here's about how many deals you'll do if you do this exact activity level, which is call every single one and put an offer in their inbox with a free DocuSign account. Get your lawyer to get you a good purchase and sale agreement. Have it ready. Make sure it's easy to edit. That way you'll do it easily. Or get a CRM that can automatically send them. XLeads is great for that. I love the XLeads CRM for that reason. The last obstacles you have to sending these offers, the more money you're going to make. So just make yourself an offer making machine. If you've ever seen the movie Cider House Rules, he says, what business are you in? You're in the business of making offers, period. So make sure that all your obstacles are out of your way for making offers. And you're going to make mistakes. That's okay. Be ready for that and know what you're really working for. If it's just, I want to make more money, that's probably not going to be enough. You need something specific, just like the sellers do. What is it? Do you have a health problem that you need to compensate for? Do you need more free time than the average person? Do you have a relative with a health problem? Do you want to put your kids through college so they don't have debt? What does that look like for you? What does that look like for them? Do you want to retire your spouse? I did. It's been a beautiful experience. I mean, our relationship's never been better. And for years and years and years, I had to watch him leave early in the morning and come home at night as a bike mechanic with his hands covered in grease, exhausted. And now, he wakes up whenever he wants, right? So those were some of my goals that I knew, back in even 2011, I wanted to retire him. So we have conversations like that. If you reach out to me, what are your specific goals? And how many deals a month are you currently doing? And then what does your budget look like? And if you don't decide to move forward, then I hope that you at least learned something. Because that's what I want for my legacy. No one's going to care how big my house was or how big my bank account was, or, they're not going to care about that. People care about, when you've passed away and you're gone, people will have a pang in their heart if they remember that you actually cared about them and genuinely wanted to help them if you try to hustle people, they won't even remember who you are, right? I mean, do you remember all the people who tried to hustle you? Absolutely not. It's just, it's in one ear and out the other. But think about the people who really genuinely cared about you and tried to help you. And then if they decide to move forward, great. If they don't, oh well. Like the consultative type sales approach, like that, those are the people that you remember. Like, man, that was a decent person. I wanted to refinance my house whenever it was down to 2%, right? Because I had 4.25 and my house was only worth, I think, 135, right? Because I was only making 40K, remember? And this guy his name's Michael Fish. And he said, you know what? You don't need me to refinance your house because the amount that it's going to cost you for the fees is going to be more than what you make on changing the difference between the interest rates. And guess what? I remember that guy's name, even though I only talked to him once. So I want to be like that. So if you reach out to me, it's not going to be some heavy-handed deal. We're going to have a consultative conversation on, where are you now? Where do you want to go? And do you really want to get there? That's a big question. Sometimes we think we want something, and then we realize, oh my gosh, that's a lot more work than I realized. Maybe I don't really want
Yeah,
to do all
got it.
that work. So you have to have a pretty deep and compelling why.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just, and we'll wrap up on this, but you just made me think of like that legacy piece of it, and I know psychology is like you love that piece of everything, but I, everybody knows we have a lending company, but before we launched that lending company, we reached out to a CEO of a very large debt fund down in Charleston, South Carolina, and we connected with her through a networking group, but just through a lot of back and forth. Number one, she convinced us to move forward with the fund. Number two, she agreed for the first year in business, to be our consultant. She didn't have to do this. She did not need to do it. She basically, we had to force her to take money from us. I mean, it was kind of that type of scenario. But a few weeks into the calls, I remember asking her. I've told this story a lot, but I remember asking her, "I've got to ask, why are you doing this? You're literally giving us the blueprint, and you're helping build a competitor to your company. Like, we're going to be doing the same business as you." And she stopped me and she said, "There's enough sunshine for everybody, and me giving you some sunshine is not going to take away from mine. And if you do this to 5 more people and they do it to 5 more people, that's my legacy." And that is so, you're right. I remember her. I will always remember her because of that mindset, that abundance mindset. I want to share, I want to help. And she didn't care if we paid her, didn't, she just wanted to help because she saw something in us. And that's exactly what you're talking about. And I got to experience that very recently. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm not knocking people who hustle because I had to go through my hustle season to get to where I am now. And I was right. Yeah. I was a ferocious closer. I mean, I would straight up abuse people. I would, insult men's manliness and manhood. Like, you need to reach down and find a pair, and why aren't you, moving forward? And you know what I mean? I would straight up be abusive to get people to move forward because it was that or don't eat. But I'm not there now.
Right. Well, that's good to hear. So we're gonna drop your email address, all your social media links in the show notes. And again, I just encourage folks to, if you're in that season of scale and you think that what you've heard from Jennifer is might be beneficial to your company and what you're growing, just reach out and have a conversation. It does not hurt. And if all you walk away from it are some good tips or some good pointers and that's it, take that as a win and leverage Jennifer in that way. And hopefully you go further than that and leverage her and her team to help you grow. So
awesome,
Jennifer, I really thank you for taking the time to do this. I feel like I could spend 4 hours getting into the psychology of all this stuff, which is where my brain goes to all the time. But I think we have given the listeners, a healthy dose of what it is you do and how you can help them. And I appreciate you taking the time to do it. So.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time on Dealmaker Catalyst. That wraps up this episode of the Dealmaker Catalyst. If you want to keep learning from elite operators and plug into a national community that lives this stuff every day, check out Dealmaker Catalyst. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's serious about leveling up. And we'll see you on the next Dealmaker Catalyst.